Today I'm making a fruit bowl. This will be a large shallow bowl. Now shallow bowls are prone to collapsing when making, so I'll show you some ways of minimizing this when throwing. Another problem that potters sometimes struggle with is called a beginner's hump. It interrupts the interior curve of your bowl. So I'll show you some ways of avoiding this. I'm going to throw with 2.5 kilos of clay, and my fruit bowl will end up being about 36 centimeters. I'm using a buff mid-fire clay. It's not super gritty, but it does have a bit of body. My clay is quite soft. I find it easier to work with larger pieces of clay. If I was using much more than this size of clay, I'd be preparing multiple balls and centering in stages. If you want to know how to do this, watch my large stoneware platter video to see how I center large amounts of clay in stages. So let's get started. So pat it into shape, and then I wet my hands and push the clay down. Now I bring the clay up into a cone shape and push the clay back down. Now that I feel the clay centered, I'm ready to flatten the clay. While I'm flattening the top of the clay, I'm making sure that the clay stays on the center. So now I'm ready to push into the clay and open out. While I'm opening out, I'm thinking about the interior curve of the bowl. Sweeping curve I was talking about earlier. Even though I'm making a bowl, notice that at this point I'm still keeping the walls quite upright. Ready to bring the walls up. Now I'm going to get the walls to the right height before I start shaping the bowl. So I'm starting at the bottom and gently squeezing the clay and bringing my hands up. I'm deliberately leaving extra clay around the base of the pot, and I'm also making sure that I don't thin the rim too much. So leaving clay at the bottom is really important, as the walls are going to need some clay to support the curve as I push the walls out into a bowl shape. This extra clay is also important in avoiding the beginner's hump. So the beginner's hump really occurs when parts of the curve are not supported and slump. As for the rim, you need some extra clay in the rim to stretch the wall out as you increase the diameter. Now I'm using my flexible rib to create a gentle curve on the inside of the bowl. I'm pressing it very gently into the inside of the bowl and using a sponge on the outside to support the curve. It's really important that you support the outside wall this way. You can see I'm using my rib on the outside of the bowl, and this helps compress the clay on the outside. So remember to support the outside of the bowl as you're working on the inside curve. And if you have left some clay around the base, that will support the bowl as you shape. I'm adding a little potter's swirl to the inside of the bowl, as this will accentuate the glaze effects. Now I'm done. I'm going to remove my bowl from the wheel and I'll wire through a little later. After I wire through, I'll let it dry, and as soon as it's ready to support itself, flip it over. So now I'm ready to trim. So I have the chance to remove some of the supporting clay I left when I was throwing. What I really want to do is make sure that I trim the outside of the bowl to reflect the inside curve. With this low, shallow bowl, I'm not going to trim a foot ring. I want to trim a sweeping curve to the foot of the bowl, and then I'll trim to make sure the base is concave. This is looking smooth, so I'm ready to flip the bowl and check the rim. So I check and smooth at this stage, as this really minimizes having to work with clay when it's dry. So lightly sponge if you have to. Okay, so now I'm ready to dry this bowl, and then I'm going to load it into the kiln and bisque fire. I've glazed my bowl with a base glaze, and now I'm ready to add some layers of glazes. And now I'm brushing some bands of glaze. I'm after a layered effect. So by layering glazes, I'm hoping for some interesting glaze on glaze effects and a little movement in the glazes. A bowl like this is perfect for experimentation. The glaze is just going to end up sitting at the bottom of the bowl. Glazes layered or used in combination can have a lower melting point than glazes on their own. Glazes used individually might have a higher melting point, and glazes combined together a lower melting point. A bowl shape is perfect for experimenting in this way. if I were layering glazes on a more upright form. Unless I really knew the glazes well, I'd use a cookie under my piece for firing. Fired and ready to unload. And here we have it, a finished fruit bowl. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if you find my videos useful, be sure to subscribe. As always, thanks for watching.